All right, if you want to follow along, it's our way too early prediction for Tennessee's 2025 season. And before we get to ours, let's talk about some of the other predictions that are out there, because usually they're all bundled together kind of within 4 or 5 spots, these way too early predictions. I mean, I bet if we went back and looked last year that everybody thought Tennessee was going to be somewhere 8 to 12. I'm guessing that was you and I were higher on them, Caleb, but I would think that's about where Tennessee would have been pegged by most reputable ESPN, Yahoo, CBS Sports, by most of those media outlets. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Okay.
Because we're not going to do the research and check each other. But now it's really, really all over the place. Mark Schlabach of the mothership ESPN said, quote, after winning 9 games or more for the 3rd straight season and reaching the college football playoff, Josh Heupel has some work to do this offseason, especially on offense. It wouldn't be surprising to see UT take a step back in 2025. The Volunteers are losing Dylan Sampson, the SEC's leading rusher, with 1,491 yards and 22 touchdowns, and their top 3 receivers, Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, exhausted their eligibility. Squirrel White entered the transfer portal. 3 starting offensive linemen will also have to be replaced. Solid nucleus coming back on defense, but Tennessee will miss Pierce's production on the edge. I got a couple of issues with this. I don't believe that White is considered a loss by Tennessee's coaching staff. Maybe Mark has a better feel for it. I'm not knocking him. I've got a lot of respect for Mark. He does a fantastic job. I absolutely love his coverage of the Masters. And I don't know what production you're having to replace from James Pierce. He has Tennessee all the way down at 19, which is about an 8-4 record. Listen, if they slip that far to 8-4, that means a loss, or that means 2 losses in which you're favored in. So Josh Heupel will enter the 2026 season firmly on the hot seat if they go 8-4 this year. Any disagreement with that?
No, none. Except for I'm not so sure it's 2 losses they're favored in. It's definitely 1 loss, but looking at their schedule, there's a very good chance that they'll be underdogs in 3 games next year.
Okay, so what are Tennessee's biggest potential pitfalls?
So, and we're going to talk about their win totals next year. But Georgia, early in the season, I wouldn't be surprised if they're an underdog on that, even though they're at home. Alabama's on the road. I could see them being I think they will be an underdog on that. But November at Florida. Look, guys, Florida's a dark horse team next year. Yeah. I keep telling you guys that. Like, they could end up being really, really, really good. And if they're really, really good in late November and given Josh Heupel's track record on the road, don't be surprised if Tennessee's an underdog. But still, 8-4 would be a very, very, very bad look with the returning quarterback. So
and it would probably grease the rails that Nico is just going to cruise on out of here, unless he's just not good enough to play in the NFL. But I would be concerned that he would transfer too, because he's already played that card once. That's why I think they need to get George McIntyre ready. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, Schlabach is definitely the most negative on the Vols. Yahoo Sports is the most positive. They had Tennessee at 7. However, I cited CBS's Dennis Dodd because I do know him. He ranked Tennessee number 9 in his poll. So the Yahoo Sports was a bit optimistic by most standards. He writes, Nico Iamaleava was exposed a bit playing in the cold against an elite defense at Ohio State in the CFB. No matter how much progress the Vols have made, Iamaleava and Tennessee likely will have to win a game like that to take the next step. Losing SEC leading rusher Dylan Sampson will hurt, and the offensive line needs to be retooled. Defensive coordinator Tim Banks is a star, so don't expect a big drop-off on that side of the ball. I don't know if Dennis Dodd's ever been to Knoxville because it is not warm all the time. I mean, I've been in a ton of games that were brutally cold for Kentucky and Vanderbilt through the years to know that Tennessee is not Miami. That if they have to travel to Columbus, or when they traveled to Columbus, it wasn't the weather that did them in. I don't understand that.
I'll take it a step further. I don't know if Dennis Dodd watched that game. I don't see where you watch that game and say Nico Iamaleava himself was exposed. Maybe like Tennessee as a team, but like there were about
the running back, not as much talent overall, especially when you lose Dylan Sampson. That Nico's play is probably 6th, 7th on the list of why Tennessee lost that game.
Yes, exactly. That's like nobody would sit there and say Nico was exposed watching that game more than anything else. Yeah, they lost their. I mean, when he just brings up losing Dylan Sampson, they didn't have Dylan Sampson for Ohio State. Now, yes, they got Drax in that game, but I'm going to say this as high as I am on Dylan Sampson. And Dave, I think you'll agree with me on this. At the end of the day, he's still a running back, right? And at the end of the day, like, what team has ever been? I get it. The Eagles are about to go to the Super Bowl probably because they signed Saquon Barkley. Baltimore would have gone to the Super Bowl by signing Derrick Henry if Mark Andrews didn't like throw that game. I don't know if he had bets against Baltimore in that game, honestly. But how many teams in college? Who's the last team you can think of in college that like took a step back because they lost a running back?
Well, that's a good point. Now that nobody. Probably Penn State when they leaned on Saquon Barkley. They probably took a little bit of a hit because they fed it to him. The other only elite tailback, in my opinion, has the Titans guy. What's happening?
Derrick Henry?
Yeah. Talking about? And that's the only other one.
And it ain't like Alabama missed him.
Right. Alabama replaced him, no problem. So that's a great point. I'm going to call funky stuff on that. I don't see that losing a great tailback ever really hurts you. And the Titans pretty much posted the same record with or without Henry, right?
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. But well, actually, wait, let me take that back. If you talk about within the confines of the 2021 season when they had the team constructed, yes, but I don't want to go into that. But never mind. You are right about that. They were more or less the same. Alabama, the interesting thing, though, I mean, let's go back to Tennessee in the 90s. How many times was it, they lost Jay Graham. What are they going to do? Jamal Lewis is a stud. Jamal Lewis is down for a season-ending injury. What are they going to do? Travis Henry's a stud. They lost Travis Henry. What are they going to do? Travis Stevens sets single-season rushing record. I mean, like, you had a run from, like, I would say, like, starting with Reggie Cobb getting kicked off the team in 1989. Actually, let's go further back. Johnny Jones in 1984. You had a run from Johnny Jones all the way through Travis Stevens of 2001. Where was how are they going to replace this running back? And they kept replacing them and upgrading. It felt like. Right. So it made no difference.
All right. It's going to be interesting to me to see what is the differentiating factor. So we're going to get to our predictions. And there's a lot of people in the message board, they're going to call me all out crazy. But I think Nico's development this year will be the difference in what Tennessee did last year, which was make the college football playoff and look like they didn't belong there and actually win a game, which I think they will this year. And I'll have my prediction coming up. In other words, I still believe in Nico. I'm not going to name names, but I've been around quarterbacks that the parents are all over the coaches. They're ringing the phone. They're blowing them up. And I'm like, man, what do they want? What did they want back then, Caleb, out of their precious little Johnny?
They wanted them to play all the time.
Bingo. Okay. What do they want now?
Money.
Right.
Hard cash.
Right. So when you dole out that check and you know that your son's going to be the starter, I'm not taking your phone call if I'm Josh Heupel and Nico Iamaleava's dad wants to complain about the fact that he threw it 18 times in a 10-point win over Florida as opposed to 32 times because he loves his son's arm, which he should. I'm not taking that phone call. In other words, I think the distraction is closed. Now, if this were another couple of quarterbacks that I've covered, I would not think the distraction is over, and I would think it could affect the individual young man's play. And I've seen kids go sour because of parental influences. I don't think that happens in this NIL era. I stroked you a check, man. You go out there and do it, and I'm calling plays, and I'm doing what I want to do. And if you don't like it, then I'm calling on George McIntyre.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's a way different relationship.
Totally different relationship. By the way, just want to address the message board because people keep bringing up like, oh, Pitt when Tony Dorsett graduated or the Pony Express. Guys, you're making my point. That was the 70s and the 80s.
Right. We're talking about the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah. Oh, well, back in 1932, when you lost your punter, you had a tough time replacing him. And so, okay, guys, come on. Okay, so I'm with you on Nico Iamaleava. And when I get to my prediction, I'm just going to say this. And we're going to talk about this later in the week. We're really underrating the fact that Tennessee is returning Nico Iamaleava when none of the other top-tier SEC teams are returning their quarterback. Not one.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah. And we talked about this. In this day and age in college football, with the depth not being what it is and teams not able to stack up on talent, chemistry is going to be a factor that can lessen a talent advantage. Like it wasn't before.
Agreed. Work trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips. Trucks pass the highest standards to be put to work. Process quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for work trucks, cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app-hide work bodies installed. Pickup trucks of all sizes and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you, can get you back on the road tomorrow. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Entire inventory online, Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. Work Trucks, LLC.com. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. So coming up.
Well, wait. Well, are we going to do our way too early
predictions? I'm sorry. My prediction is this. I'm sorry. I went to the trouble of writing it, and then I didn't even go to it. My way too early prediction is this: 11-3 with one win in the college football playoff. I think that Tennessee will get the benefit of the doubt because I think the college football playoff committee, if they're in a position where Tennessee's hosting or not, as they were this year, they went with Ohio State. An argument could have been made for either. I think Tennessee gets the benefit of the doubt, does not get a bye, but gets in the playoff and host a game in Neyland Stadium in which they'll win. The college football playoff wants both the Big Ten and SEC and everybody else to be good. Again, don't think this isn't orchestrated, but it could actually work in Tennessee's favor this year.
I agree. I'm going to say Tennessee goes, let me just say they go 13-2, and I'm not going to say if they lose, if they get to 14 wins or get to a third loss just yet. If you get
your prediction is your prediction is vague. It kind of defeats the purpose of a prediction.
They're going to the national title game.
Okay.
They're going to go 10-2 and then not get a bye, go to the national title game. Here's what they're going to do in the regular season. I think they're going to lose to Alabama and Florida on the road. I do. And I know people don't want to hear it, but by the way, I just got corrected saying that Florida's returning their quarterback. Florida wasn't one of the top 5 teams in the SEC this year. So again, let's point that out. So Tennessee's going to go 10-2. They're going to lose to Alabama and Florida. You ready for this, Dave? They're going to beat Georgia at home in early September, though. I think the chemistry of Tennessee and the experience of Nico and getting Georgia at home while Georgia's still figuring themselves out early because it's September and they have a new quarterback, that's going to favor Tennessee significantly so.